So welcome back, everybody. I have the pleasure today of having Rob Bovarnick here in the podcast room with me. Welcome, Rob.
Hey, Daya, how are you?
Good to see you. So Rob is the managing partner of Bovarnick and Associates, a Philadelphia-based business law firm representing businesses and their principals. And in addition to this practice, Rob has been a contributor with Forbes.com, writing on small business and bankruptcy issues. He also did a 16-part series called Behind the Curtain around Chapter 11 from the Inside. So Rob is also a legal analyst for Fox Business Network, and that was during the Chrysler and the General Motors bankruptcy cases. He's also taught advanced bankruptcy at Rutgers University as a seminar for the last 5 years. My gosh, what a very impressive resume, Rob. And I, of course, know you quite well. We've enjoyed some breakfasts and coffees together over the last, year that I've known you?
I think it's
Uh,
been about a year. That's right.
about a
Yeah.
year. All right. Well, we're just gonna have a conversation and kind of talk about like what got you into what you're doing and what are your favorite highlights?
So I am the middle of three boys, and as boys do, we argued and we fought all the time. So it just seemed natural to go from arguing for free to arguing actually getting paid for it. And so in college, I was a political science major, always assuming that I would go to law school. My major was international relations, and I wanted to go to Georgetown was my first choice. We had a difference of opinion. I wanted them a little more than they wanted me. And so I went to the University of Miami with the idea of focusing on international law, took my first trial advocacy course, and I said, this is really fun. And so I started my practice after I graduated law school down in Miami for a small law firm doing business litigation. And I met my wife, who was originally from Philadelphia, met her before my third year of law school. And we got married after I graduated, and we knew that we didn't want to stay in Miami. And I'm originally from Boston. We thought about Boston, we thought about Philadelphia, we thought about DC. Her brother had just moved back to Philadelphia, and so we decided we'd move up there too. So got married, moved up here, and I've been in Philadelphia for it's interesting, longer than I've been anywhere else. I've been in Philadelphia.
Ah, that's interesting. I had stayed in New Orleans after law school and was there for most of my adult life. So very interesting. You and I also have that connection of studying international political science and then doing international in law school. Although I didn't have an intention of going to law school when I was doing the undergrad, but that's what happened.
No, and I will say that I am a political junkie. I love the political process. Um, I actually wrote a political column for a while for one of the local legal papers up here until that paper went out. I'm not sure it was because I was writing the column that the paper went out of business, but there was some connection there. Went out of business about a year after I was writing for them.
Well, it could be a claim to fame, or you could have maybe jumped in and helped them with some of their financial issues.
Yeah,
What kind of
that is true.
what kind of case, like if I'm listening to this program and I'm listening to you now, like what am I listening for? What are people that want to get referred to you?
So, so I represent privately held companies and their principals, and I have what I refer to as three buckets. I represent them in corporate transactional matters, which runs the gamut from making a decision as to what is the proper corporate structure, all the day-to-day contracts that they may have to deal with, and also the exit strategy if they're going to sell the business or somebody wants to buy another business. I also have the second bucket, which is the business litigation, where I represent plaintiffs, those are the folks that sue, and defendants, those are the folks that get sued. And then my third bucket, which is the one that, to the extent I have a name, I made my name in, is the debtor creditor world, representing companies in financial distress, either outside of bankruptcy, in workouts, or in a Chapter 11. Also, folks that are getting sued in the bankruptcy court by trustees or by debtors, and also folks that want to purchase assets out of bankruptcy. So really, and I'm licensed in Pennsylvania and in Florida, and I have handled matters in other places, but I would say those are the two areas where I primarily work. So to answer your question, uh, a company that doesn't have a lawyer. And one of the distinguishing features about me is, if, as you know, if you look at either my website or my LinkedIn page, what does it say? It says, looking at issues through the eyes of a business owner, don't over lawyer the deal. And I come from a big firm. And so it's really easy when you're at a big firm to over lawyer and think about everything. But what I have found in representing the privately held smaller companies is it's important to know what's important, and it's important to know what's not important. Now, you talk to the client and you let them know, but really it's a function of what is it that they need to get the job done. And I can actually tell you a quick story that's kind of funny how that really is, you know, burned into my memory. So when my wife and I were looking to buy our first house, and I'm a young lawyer at that point in time, and I'm looking at the Pennsylvania Standard Real Estate Contract. And of course, being the brilliant young lawyer, I know how to write a better contract. And in fact, I did write a better contract. I took the 3-page Pennsylvania Standard Real Estate Contract and turned it into a 10-page contract. It was, and I got to tell you, a work of art. So what I would do is we'd go to a house and we do the open house, and we'd see one that we like, and we'd present my 10-page beautiful contract. Crickets. Finally, one day, I think I'm in a conference room with the firm I was with at the time, and one of the partners comes in and says, Rob, do yourself a favor. You know what's important and what's not important. Make the changes that are important and don't worry about the rest. So the next time we saw a house, I took the Pennsylvania Standard Real Estate Contract. I made 3 or 4 changes, put in the offer, and wouldn't you know it, we got the house for the price we were looking for. And and that was years ago, and I've always remembered that.
Yeah, I like that. Like choosing the game you're playing and playing in the court that's there, instead of reinventing the wheel.
Right.
Yeah. So what do you do for fun? What lights you up?
I am a foodie.
Oh,
I used to be somewhat, I'm not sure I was an athlete, but I used to be a tennis player. I started playing tennis when I was 7, played through the end of my first year of law school. And then when my girls who are now a little bit older, when they were young and they were taking tennis lessons, I would drive them to the tennis lessons, and I hit with one of the pros. But I don't do much tennis anymore. I go to the gym. But I would say my number one thing is I like going to restaurants. I like reading about restaurants. I have clients who are restaurateurs, and it's always interesting talking about their restaurants and how they make their restaurants successful. Or hopefully, because I've also represented some restaurants that have failed or needed to be reorganized. But I really enjoy everything food related. So that would be probably my number one thing. That's a passion of mine. I also like traveling.
mhm.
I haven't done it nearly as much post-COVID, but we used to travel a lot throughout the United States and a fair amount in Europe as well.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I'm glad that we can get back around in doing that, because I also love to travel. And there in Philadelphia, what's your favorite restaurant?
My favorite restaurant in Philadelphia. Just trying to think. There was a restaurant that we went to recently. It was, I think, it's called Hikaru. It's in the northern part. It's obviously Japanese restaurant, and it's an omakase restaurant, but it's not your normal omakase restaurant. Normally, like a restaurant. For those of you that are familiar with the Philadelphia restaurant scene, there's a restaurant called Morimoto, which is very, very well known. Morimoto from Iron Chef fame, and you can order the omakase, and that's a huge thing. This one is a little smaller, but you get some really, really interesting dishes, and interesting sushi. Everything about it is very interesting. So that we went there a couple of months ago for our younger daughter's birthday, and I really like that. So that's what's on my mind right now, going back there.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. Yeah. All right. And kind of as we wrap up, tell us a little bit about your networking and your passion for connecting people.
So I will say, and I see you're smiling because you know my answer to this, which is how we met, was through Provisors.
Mhm.
And I could spend the next 4 episodes of your podcast talking about that, everything wonderful about Provisors. But I will say that for me, that has been a total game changer. Meeting the highest caliber of people. Provisors, for those of you that are listening that don't know, is a national network that when I joined 2 years ago, it was about 7,500 people, is now about 10,000 people, and it grows obviously significantly all the time. And I've gotten really into it. I'm one of the leaders of one of the groups in Philadelphia. I also lead the Philadelphia Lawyers Group, which is really a lot of fun. There's a bit of a heavy lift, but the return is so worth it. And obviously, I'm not ashamed to say one of the best things about Provisors is my getting to know you. So I want to thank you for that opportunity.
Oh, Rob, you're already on the show. You don't have to make a pitch. Well, I'm delighted to have you on here today, and all of our contact information will be in the show notes to be able to get a hold of Rob when you have some business questions. Maybe if you're a little bit of turnaround in your business, or possibly on the other side of someone who's in bankruptcy. And I am Daya Naef with the Success Partner, and always happy to host this event and also field your questions. And my contact information will be in the notes and on the outro slide as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Daya.